finally approached the station, and I lost track of my thoughts, but by this point I was glad for the opportunity to be quiet for a while. The train brought us to our destination slowly, as if contemplating something. Nah, they didn't jump on us then, did they? Uh-huh. No, we're gonna get to the warehouse, and that's when they jump on us. I'm seeing it now. They purposely, ignored us, let us go off wherever we needed to. We went back to Kyosuke's. They realized, that obviously she wouldn't be there. So they're watching us. If Nikolai and Kagome decided we're just gonna go home, just sleep it off, then they probably would have jumped on us, and be like, okay, where is she? But now they're just following us, keeping eyes on us, right? Then we pull up to the warehouse and they're like, we got him. The train brought us to our destination slowly, as if contemplating something. There were fewer people in the carriage than I expected, so Kagome and I didn't have to force our way through a crowd, and we found our seats in peace. Although Saturday wasn't the best day to hurry anywhere, all that serenity and regularity suddenly made me anxious. It seemed that everything was happening so unhurriedly, only because it was the last road we would ever take. People sentenced to execution usually don't run to the gallows either. When we finally arrived and walked outside, I asked Kagome, "Aren't you afraid at all?" "Of what?" "If Kobayashi Jun got the note after all." I sighed, gathering my courage. "I mean, there's a chance we won't find Ellie there." Kagome thought about it, but looked more annoyed than surprised. The thought did cross my mind too. "You told me at Kyosuke's that you don't care." "I don't," she agreed calmly. "Alright, let's go." I walked so quickly that she had to run to catch up with me. "Hey!" We almost reached the warehouse when Kagome carefully took me by the hand and stopped me. "Listen, Nico-san, maybe I seem petulant to you sometimes, but I don't mean it. And since we don't have much time left to spend together, I want to tell you..." "Wait," I whispered. "Sometimes we have to make difficult decisions, the consequences of which aren't obvious right away." He's saying wait, like there's something going on at the warehouse, and she's just like, No, I need to say this." "Wait, you!" I grabbed her, pulled her over, and put my hand over her mouth. "Look." Cars with sirens were parked outside the warehouse. Policemen were walking around. Well, here we are. "Nico-san?" Kagome looked at me with genuine fear in her eyes. "Just as I said. Let's get out of here. Just don't run." We walked normally, but my heart was beating like crazy. When approaching the station, I stopped and looked around to see whether somebody was expecting us there. But the fish market district looked lively and busy as always. Even if Kobayashi Corporation's people were hiding somewhere, it wouldn't be easy to spot them. That's what I was talking about. I'm not doomsaying, I'm just stating facts. You want to tell me that it's all my fault? "Nico-san, I'm not saying anything. It's not your fault at all," she said louder than needed, but there was no reproach or affront in her voice. "Well then, what do we do now? Dad..." She wrapped her arms around her body and lowered her head. "Don't just go imagining the worst. You might have just not received the note. Your father's probably alright. After Kobayashi's kidnapping, they might have decided that he posed a threat, and it's too dangerous to keep him alive." There was logic in her words, but at this moment I was mostly concerned about myself. At least we're safe at Kyosuke's place. Or not. I grabbed her by the hand again and confidently headed for the nearest telephone box. But Kagome didn't let me dial the number and grab the receiver first. "What if they had the phones tapped?" "What, all the phones in the city?" I smirked and she pursed her lips, then grew sad and lowered her head, still gripping the receiver tightly. "You know what to call Kyosuke-san?" "Well, yeah." "What about grandfather?" "Grandfather." I repeated as if I'd just heard a word in a foreign language for the first time. Haruki-san is, of course, a good person, but he doesn't present much value as a hostage. "Nico-san," Kagome said in a wilting voice, looking at the telephone and the characters scribbled on sloppily on its metal. "You can't just leave him on his own." Yeah, right. Of course, it would have been proper to say her grandfather was totally senile, but unfortunately, he really couldn't be left on his own. Well, it's Kyosuke to take care of him. "Kyosuke-san?" There was more hope in Kagome's voice than skepticism. Yeah, why not? He's a decent guy when it comes to serious stuff. Maybe everything will work out on its own somehow. I never expect fatalism like that from you. I laughed, but waited to take the receiver out of her hands. "I mean, we can't protect everyone." "God, apart from us, nobody even needs any protection." She didn't respond, just put the receiver back and stepped away. Fine. Dialed Kyosuke's number and briefly explained the situation. "What are we going to do next?" she asked after I hung up. I realized I had to make a decision. Kagome expected a clear plan of action from me. "We're going to call the KGB. We're going to emigrate to Russia." Like that I don't know how else you plan to get out of this. That's the only thing. Like, the moment we started going along with the kidnapping, that's the only place I've ever seen this going. Is like, we're gonna get in touch with Arena somehow, and be like, yo, whatever you need us to do. We kidnapped one of the richest men in Japan's daughter. Our plan fell through. Get us out of here. I was even flattered in a way that such a confident girl was relying on a simple idiot like me. But neither of us had what it took to fight the corporation on equal ground. We had to escape. Seemed like the best option. I told you. What difference does it really make whether they found Ellie themselves or we let her go? What matters is who kidnapped her. Who kept her hostage for so long, hungry and cold. Nico-san. Kagome finally looked up to me and I saw the reproach in her eyes. Fine, I agree it doesn't make sense to point fingers after the fact, but she looked so vulnerable that I barely managed to say the next few words. I thought you were ready for everything. Had she really been that confident in her ability to predict the future? I didn't think they'd find Kobayashi so quickly. Kagome whispered, very quietly, and asked her more for the sake of formality. What? I didn't think they'd find Kobayashi so quickly. She suddenly shouted with tears in her eyes. Everything was supposed to go according to plan, and he yet again makes us suffer. Who's he? Kagome didn't respond, just timidly grabbed my sleeve. What do we do next, Nico-san? My pride walked hand in hand with responsibility. No matter what the reason for the abrupt change in Kagome's mood was, at this moment the girl expected decisive action from me. We better leave Tokyo, at least for a time. What about grandfather? Your grandfather would approve. Kyosuke will take care of him. Besides, the corporation has no interest in him. Think about it. If they were, he would have been taken together with your father back then. Kagome had nothing to respond with to that, so she didn't object. Just have to lay low for a time, until everything goes back to normal. Yeah. Do you really think you'll be able to just re-enter Tokyo at a point in time? Think, oh, everything will just die down and no one's going to take notice when, you know, Kagome Iwamura and Nikolai Anokin come back into town? You really think it's going to be that easy? You really think even if you get like fake IDs and shit, like, you know, change your identity, there's not plenty of people in this town that are going to recognize y'all's faces? Like maybe, you know, Iwamura, she's the, you know, antisocial person who keeps to herself. Nikolai was constantly, ditching school, didn't have many friends, but people knew his face. Obviously, you know, like he kept saying, the tall European guy kind of stood out. But even, Kagome, being the antisocial person she was, there's still people that would recognize her. There's still people that would know, like, oh hey, that's Iwamura-san, isn't it? Like, regardless of what your ID said, like, there's people that would know. So that's why my mind immediately goes to, like, you don't, like, maybe leaving Tokyo is the immediate plan, but, at the very least, you get out of Tokyo. But what I'm more criticizing is the fact that they think that after a time they can come back. Now, you need to stay the hell out of Tokyo. You need to not go to Tokyo ever again. You get the fuck out of Tokyo. Like, my mind was saying, get in contact with Arena, get the hell out of the country. But yeah, at the very least, you get out of Tokyo, you stay the hell out of Tokyo. In reality, I was in the situation everyone imagines, but no one believes will actually come. In Russia, many save for a so-called Black Day, without realizing that if it really did come, their money wouldn't be enough, or most likely no money in the world could help at all. With the breakdown of the banking system, banknotes will just become paper, and gold and diamonds that used to be worth millions of dollars will be exchanged for a piece of bread. Are there even extreme circumstances you can just confidently prepare for? Maybe if I had a bunker in the mountains and years worth of food reserves. Or even better, a spaceship with warp engines and matter replicators. Thousands of people all around the globe get into car accidents, become the victims of criminals or disease every day. I'd saved my life, but I had no idea what to do with it next. No matter how much I would scold myself for everything that happened, no matter how much I would scold myself for everything that happened, there's too many typos in this fucking script, which happened in big part because of my own actions. These past few weeks, I felt like a blindfolded man walking down a narrow path along a mountain. One wrong step and the fall wouldn't be long. Where should we go? I drew up a map of Japan in my imagination, only to realize my knowledge of geography was far too limited for that trick. Although I still knew some places outside Tokyo. There's a village. I've been there with my parents when I was little. It's quite far, and I hope they won't be looking for us there. What about money? I'll have to call Kyosuke. Nobody was following us, and after a couple of hours we were staying in front of the familiar bar that I hoped I wasn't seeing for the last time. That's all I have, Nick. Even that wasn't easy to find. He handed over a pretty thin envelope to me. Thank you for it. How's my grandfather? Did you remember everything we said? Kagome asked anxiously. We agreed that I'd give the key to my house to Kyosuke and he'd visit Moriyuki-san several times a day. Plus Kagome had given a note for her grandfather to our simple-minded friend, who we now had to rely on for so much. I'll drop by your place right after we say goodbye. You can count on me. Yomura-san. He bowed to Kagome for some reason, accepting the note. Wouldn't it be easier to run away together with the old man? God, no. Somewhere deep inside, I understood that the potential interest of the corporation Akira Shinji, the former leader of the project, far outweighed their desire to take revenge on two conceited school kids. So for now, it'd be better if we got as far away from the epicenter as was possible. Better for everyone. So, where are you off to now? Realize you're better off not knowing, right? Yeah, right. He sighed disappointedly and held out his hand to me. Good luck. Yomura-san? Kyosuke nodded at Kagome, bidding farewell, and disappeared into an alley. You didn't think much of Kyosuke until recently, right? What? She asked absent-mindedly. Nothing. Let's go. Still need to buy the tickets. I thought of Irina on my way there. She said we'd better keep in touch. But I had no way to get in contact with her quickly, and I couldn't afford to wait. Wait, did she not give you like a business card or something? I thought that was a thing. I thought she had given them like a business card, some kind of number where you could contact her. But I guess not. Besides, do I have any reason to trust her? Well, no. Yeah, Kagome was pointing that out too. Like, what proof did you really have that she was with the KGB outside the fact that she was also Russian? For all we knew, she could have been, a plant from Kobayashi, which I wouldn't put him past him. Irina had made it clear the KGB only needed information from me, and information was something I didn't have. And I had Kagome by my side, which didn't make my mission any easier. In the end, I could only count on myself as usual. Tokyo was left far behind, the sun disappearing behind the hills to the west. Kagome sat opposite me, looking out the same window. For the last 10 years, I hadn't left the city often, and I only knew the village we were heading to because I'd gone there a couple times in the summer when I was a child. Maybe it wasn't the best choice, and we should have gone somewhere by the Sea of Japan. Kagome didn't argue when I suggested the village, and I wasn't keen on running deeper into the country just yet. Wouldn't be able to escape Kobayashi Corporation while in Japan anyway, And to leave the islands, we need a plan, money, and connections. Yeah, but see, I knew that the end game would be to leave the country. Looking at Kagome, it was hard to say what she was thinking about. Was she worried that we had to abandon everything and run away? She probably was. Anyone in her shoes would be. To add to that, Kagome had lost everything she had with the restaurant. Even if the corporation wasn't on our tail, her family future was uncertain to say the least. In a way, the situation was easier for me than her. I wasn't particularly attached to what I had. The house was only a series of time-worn walls that, after my parents' death, mostly held painful memories of long-gone days of peace and happiness. If I were to forget about the danger of Kobayashi Corporation, fewer things had changed my life than I was ready to admit. After school, I'd have to make ends meet anyway. Whether it was in Tokyo or somewhere else didn't matter much. At least now I wasn't alone. There used to be behemoths in my life, and for a time, Catherine. Sitting next to Kagome, I felt something completely new. Maybe we weren't too similar, or have many interests in common, or topics to discuss, but united by a common purpose, we were closer now than ever. Sorry that it turned out like this. I finally broke the silence. What are you apologizing for, Nika-san? I don't know. Just wanted to say something to cheer you up. Feels like you lost more than I did. Did I? She replied phlegmatically, and went back to observing the country landscape outside the window. It was indeed unusually peaceful there, far from the noisy city life. It's like we're going on holiday. If I didn't know you that well, I'd say you aren't concerned about everything that happened at all. Do you know me well, Nico-san? I'd like to think so. I grunted, feeling a bit affronted. Come on, don't get upset. We did go through a lot together. She didn't exactly sound insincere, but felt like praise for a child after their performance at a kindergarten recital. In the end, everyone gets praised no matter how well they played. I just don't understand how you managed to remain so calm. If I start worrying, will it help? Just recently I'd wanted to pity Kagome, but it was thanks to her that we're running away from Tokyo to God knows where. Whatever the case, living in your own house in the capital was much more comfortable than hiding out in some backwater province. However, I couldn't help but admit that she was at least consistent. While I was shifting around, one moment I wanted to praise and support her, but the next I wanted to shout and lambaste her. I just couldn't understand what feelings I had for the girl. She is a complicated one. For sure. This route has been fucking insane, obviously, and like... Kagome is one of those ones, you know, it's just like, obviously, just her general disposition kind of, you know, pulled me in the first place. And I know I kind of snapped about the holy shit you kidnapped a person thing. But also, she wasn't 100% in the wrong, you know. She was someone who was pushed to extremes and, you know, was just reaching out, doing whatever she possibly could to, you know, give herself an edge. Doesn't mean she was in the right? No. But does it mean, you know, you could place 100% of the blame on her? No. Like, I don't think she's a bad person. I really don't. And it's not me just like coping like, no, the first choice I picked wasn't a bad person. I swear, I didn't fuck up, guys. But I don't think that you could truly label her as like, oh, Kagome, a terrible person. Honestly, like, after seeing all the shit that's gone down, I don't like Ellie. I really don't. Ellie is like a two-faced bitch for sure. Because she'll tell you one thing and then stab you in the back the next thing. Because I mean, that whole fucking situation with letting her go proves it. When you do confront Kagome and you say, no, we can't. What? Are you crazy? And you let her go, you're still the one that's held accountable. And Kagome isn't even mentioned. Like, Kagamaru says that. He's like, girl? I didn't hear anything about a girl. So, apparently Ellie pins you as the ringleader regardless. So, Ellie's definitely gone down on the totem pole. Like, I'm definitely excited to see her out. Because I like the whole music aspect, the band aspect of her route. That definitely seems like a fun time. But, yeah, no, Ellie definitely went down a few pegs. Honestly, I think I might even fucking choose Catherine before I go through with Ellie. Ellie really rubbed me the wrong way. And that's the thing, like, I was so caught up about the fact that we kidnapped her that now, after the fact, I'm like, you know, Ellie does actually kind of suck. And it's also seeing a lot of things in retrospect too. Like, especially earlier when I was like skipping through all the stuff I had seen to make sure I was making all the optimal choices, you know? Like, yeah, you just look back at some things, you realize like, yeah, no, Ellie is kind of a shitter. And that's putting it politely. She's very after her own interests. Which, I mean, you could argue that of any of these characters so far. You know, Kagome was definitely after her own interests. But, like, time and time again, she's proven she's thinking about her dad, she's thinking about her grandfather. You know, obviously those are people who are close to her. You know, she doesn't really consider much about Nikolai. Well, even then, like, she does consider Nikolai. That's why she tries to bring him into it, tries to make him see her side of it so that, you know, he can sympathize with her and she can bring him into it and she can feel closer with him. Because obviously, you know, when they were getting to the warehouse, she was about to confess to him. You could already see that's what they were trying to go for with that. But yeah, Kagome, she's a complicated one. I could definitely understand why someone would be turned off from her. I totally get it. And I don't think I'm going to walk away from this saying she's my favorite. I can already see that now. I mean, Himitsu is going to have to bomb pretty fucking hard if she doesn't quite live up to Kagome's standards. But I digress. I've been ranting for a bit too long here. Let's proceed. My lack of understanding angered or rather scared me. Don't blame yourself, Nika-san. It's not your fault at all. Kagome suddenly smiled. What's my fault? Nothing. You just look like you only expect me to chastise you. Well, yes, the thought did cross my mind. I smiled in response. What would I chastise you for? What for? Well, let's say for the fact that I only have... reached for my wallet to count my money but stopped myself, having realized it was pointless. It's not like it would suddenly multiply. What, Nico-san? Are you not used to counting your coins? You seem to have read my mind. There it is. Kagome made a complicated face as if she'd been caught red-handed, but really didn't want to admit it. It's not even what I'm talking about. Money isn't the most important thing here. The only people who think money isn't important live in luxury. Kagome said preachily and stared out the window again. So you think I lived in luxury? You think you didn't? Homie, you lived in a mansion all to yourself. You had a massive bank account all to yourself. You could skip school whenever you want because you knew it wouldn't affect you. The sarcasm in my voice echoed through the carriage. Fine, whatever you say. Indeed, the little money we had probably wouldn't last us very long. In order to leave the country, we needed fake passports, or at least enough money to pay some Chinese fisherman. It sounded difficult enough in theory, even if I had pockets full of cash. Kagome sighed, and I saw something akin to sympathy in her eyes. Nico-san, like you said, it doesn't make sense to point fingers now. I too would like to save my father and not leave my grandfather behind. Besides, I'm worried about leaving him alone with Kyosuke-san. Right now, we need to take care of ourselves first. I wanted to believe her, but the future seemed far too nebulous. It is difficult to jump down a bridge into a muddy river hoping it's deep enough. Meanwhile, Kagome and I had been tossed into a whirlpool head first. God, I wish I had accepted Ellie's offer. I could be playing bass in Zed Fields and lived on Easy Street. Yeah, but Ellie kinda sucks. As cool as it would be to play in a band, Ellie sucks. I would much rather be living on the lam with Kagome than playing in a band with Ellie. I'll be honest. Oh, we're jumping ahead a whole month. Alright. Because we were on September 26th. Now we're jumping ahead to October 26th. Getting ready for the old Halloween season, huh? Still, this wasn't how I'd imagined work. When we arrived in the village, it became clear almost right away that Kyosuke's money wouldn't last long. Sure, Kagome easily got a job at the only local joint, although you couldn't call it a restaurant, even compared to Gifts of the Sea. I, meanwhile, wasn't much of a cook, and all the other unskilled work in the village was taken by local kids and teenagers. Why would they need a grown-up loafer, let alone one not Japanese? I had only one, most obvious option left. Hard, menial labor. Next to the village was a coal mine that miraculously hadn't been depleted this far into the 20th century, where most of the local men worked. In places like that, nobody asked for a CV, university degree, or a letter of recommendation. As long as you've got your arms and legs and aren't disabled, and can swing a pickaxe, you're welcome. Besides, it wasn't common there to ask about the past of new miners. Not everybody enjoyed talking about that subject. My colleagues were generally good people, albeit a bit quiet and gloomy. They must have been surprised that a European-looking guy had come to work in a mine out in the Japanese countryside, but nobody showed it or asked me any questions. I was fine with that, and they paid decently, not that I was in any condition to complain. Kagome and I rented a single room for two at the local hotel to cut costs. At first I was a little embarrassed by the prospect of living together with a girl my age in a 6 tatami space, while she didn't seem at all bothered by the situation. She earned less than me at her place, but also worked fewer hours. Sometimes returning home after my shift, I could only fall onto my futon exhausted. Kagome organized our everyday lives as much as it was possible, considering the situation. She cooked, cleaned, washed our clothes. But it was a sensible division of responsibilities, considering the difference in our income and skills, so no matter how much I tried, I couldn't exactly feel too much gratitude. I didn't socialize much with the other miners at work, except for the obligatory Japanese drinking parties. Almost all of them had families, and they preferred to spend their free time with them. Meanwhile, Kagome became instantly beloved by the local old ladies, both thanks to her cooking and politeness, mostly the obligatory kind though. Besides, having someone new in this village was already exciting enough. Of course, she got a lot of questions: who she was, where she came from, what she was doing there. Kagome wasn't stupid, that I didn't have to worry about, and remained heroically silent, only giving short, pointless explanations. And of course, the female half of the community couldn't quite leave alone the matter of us living together. After a short discussion, we decided it'd be easier to conform to their expectations and pretend we're a couple. And then we stopped pretending. Once again, I found it difficult to calmly accept all these unexpected twists of fate that were slowly and inevitably forcing us closer. At the same time, she was miraculously resilient, pretending none of it had anything to do with her at all. Or perhaps I was the only one reading more into the situation. It was hard for me to define my feelings for Kagome clearly. Yeah, same. Against the wishes of writers and dramatists, war and love do not go well together. In a sense, we were at war. our own little Cold War with the Kobayashi Corporation. The problem was, we had no chance to switch to an offensive. All we could do was retreat. The longer we hid living like this, the harder it got for me. Maybe it was more in Kagome's character to handle hardships and misfortunes, so she found it easier to adapt to our new environment. But I woke up every day with pain in my entire body and a desire to die. You'd think my muscles would get stronger over time, but either my body wasn't designed for this kind of work, or too little time had passed. In any case, it got more and more difficult each day. And though physically I still felt like I had some reserves left, mentally I was at my limit. The only consolation was that the villagers soon accepted us, stopped paying us any real attention. I didn't know how it happened. Maybe it was due to the charms Kagome had up until then hidden from me. And yeah, she was much friendlier at her new workplace than she used to be at her own restaurant. Every time I dropped by to check on her, the regulars would always whisper about what a lovely couple we were. Naturally, Kagome paid no attention to it, but I find it difficult to ignore this sort of gossip. And then at some point I caught myself thinking that I was used to it. It didn't happen at once, like an epiphany. Just one day I realized, as I was returning from work, that I was eager to get into our small hotel room, see Kagome, and tell her how my day had gone. To be honest, there wasn't much to tell. One day in a mine is much like another. Kagome, meanwhile, didn't enjoy talking about everyday trifles. There wasn't much going on in the village anyway. Maybe it was for the better. But the mere thought that I had accepted our current situation, it didn't scare me. No, but it annoyed me, like the label of a shirt rubbing against your neck. Had I accepted it as normal just because time had passed, or was it because of Kagome? I was sure she couldn't fail to notice my inner turmoil, but she didn't give any sign she did. Time passed, and the threat of Kobayashi Corporation turned from clear and tangible into distant and ephemeral. Anxiety over the corporation gave place to anxiety over my relationship with Kagome. For the first few weeks, I'd been afraid to call Kyosuke or anyone else in Tokyo, but eventually Kagome and I took a train to some nameless substation. Kyosuke informed us that her grandfather was safe. He was seeing him regularly, and we had nothing to worry about. Kagome was sincerely happy, and I also felt relieved. I asked Kyosuke about the corporation, but he hadn't seen anyone following him or anything. How strange. That would mean they'd somehow found Free Delhi and then just left us alone. Could she have even told her grandfather who had kidnapped her? Then maybe we hadn't had to run away from Tokyo at all. That thought ate away at my determination with each passing day. Sometimes I just wanted to ditch everything and go home, and be what may. But every night, walking into our small room and seeing Kagome, I immediately forgot this silly thought. I could blame her for us being there all I wanted. Right now, more than anything else, I wanted to protect the girl that I had just recently blamed for all my misfortunes.